Gonzalo Inzunza Inzunza, better known as El Macho Prieto, was a trafficker linked to Joaquin El Chapo Guzmán and Ismael El Mayo Zambada. He did not like to take orders, and he acted and slayed as he pleased. This was one of the main reasons that made his superiors in the organization uneasy. His limitless ambition and unpredictable actions satisfy his insatiable thirst for what he wanted. The event that marked his criminal life was a big mistake. In a shootout, a group of young men was mistaken for members of a rival gang. This confrontation resulted in the death of 3 young men approximately 20 years of age. Among them, a son of Joaqun Guzmán. After this event, Macho's life changed radically. Having said this, do you think that the guy could have made a grave mistake of killing one of Chapo's heirs? Or was it another organization that carried out the criminal acts and then blamed our today's character? Don't forget to like our video, hit that notification bell, and subscribe to our channel. Gonzalo Inzunza Inzunza was born on the 17th of August 1971 in Culiacan, Sinaloa. His father's name was René Inzunza, born and raised in La Vuelta, a small community close to Culiacan. He was involved in trafficking, like many people his age, but he died when his son was still a teenager. All he left his boy as an inheritance was a Grand Marquis car and a gun. Born into a middle-class family, Gonzalo Inzunza attended grade and middle school at Colegio Sinaloa, a religious institution. He was still a teenager when he committed his first unaliving. One night during a party at his house, he shot a man dead after he laughed at him. After this, he went to Sonora and got involved in trafficking and organized crime. After some time living in Sonora, his character became enemies of the trafficker who was also from Sinaloa, named Jesus René Delgadillo Mesa, whom he accused of having stolen a ton of his merchandise and $1.5 million pesos. When Delgadillo Mesa found out that El Macho Prieto was looking for him, he went to hide in Culiacan, but that was not enough. In 2001, Inzunza arrived to execute him, along with a group of gunmen at a children's party. Although without success, since Jesus René managed to escape. It was in this way that Inzunza began to be more recognized in the environment until it reached the ears of a very important person. Ismael El Mayo Zambada, one of the leaders of the Sinaloa cartel, heard about these events, and it was in this way that Inzunza called his attention. Immediately, Zambada arranged a meeting with him and offered him to work for his cartel. Eventually, Mayo gave Gonzalo a new nickname and started calling him Apache because of the way that he combed his hair. El Macho Prieto worked in Culiacan and in some other regions across Sinaloa. Mexican authorities believe that he might be responsible for over 80 murders during his tenure in Sinaloa, including the killings of at least a dozen police officers. While he operated alongside Zambada and Guzman, El Apache avoided prison several times, and he managed to intimidate law enforcement. For example, one night during the 90s, patrol cars went into a neighborhood where El Macho Prieto was staying to carry out an arrest warrant. Though the police were going after a person who wasn't involved with Inzunza, his gunmen stopped the police cars and ordered them to call their boss. When the police commander arrived at the scene minutes later, Inzunza walked up to him and smacked him several times, telling him that he had no permission to be in his territory and to never stop by again. When the drug lord ordered them to leave, his gunmen took away their weapons for a couple of days. Another of the many examples possible could be on the 5th of May in 2005, when El Apache traveled to Mazatlan to attend a rehab center for his addiction. While heading there, he was arrested by the Mazatlan Municipal Police with 8 of his men. The police confiscated several assault rifles, handguns, grenades, and grenade launchers. His arrest was initially reported by a photojournalist who managed to take a picture of him, but he never made it to prison. Non-official reports stated that he bribed the police to avoid going to jail. He escaped with Ismael Bernal Cristerna, an individual who was later killed by our character in 2013 because Inzunza feared betrayal. Police officers and the heads of the corporations obligated to arrest El Macho Prieto admit that they were afraid of him. In all security agencies, they have and provide information about them, but they refuse to search for them openly. They fear for their lives, and that this criminal was known for his vengeance. Even when requesting official data regarding the processes or files that federal agencies have on these gangsters, they try to avoid giving a name and a surname to the request. they are afraid that they'll be killed, and they've expressed that. During the time that Macho Prieto worked with Zambada and El Chapo, our guy always had some liberties which allowed him to continue trafficking on his side. This was probably one of the causes of his fate. The excessive ambition and his actions satisfy his desires. Everything was really going well for El Apache, but on May 8th in 2013, everything changed. A commando led by Inzunza killed 3 young men in their 20s, but these individuals, to his misfortune, were Arturo Mesa Casares, son of Blanca Margarita Casares Salazar, alias the Empress, identified by the U.S. government as Empress of the Anthrax, a criminal group associated with the Sinaloa cartel. The other 2 young men killed were Cesar Ariel Loera Guzman and Édgar Guzmán López, 22, son of Joaquin El Chapo Guzmán Loera. That night in 2008, in the parking lot of a shopping mall, a commando executed 3 young men. The 20-year-olds accompanied the girlfriend of one of them to a store where she was going to buy some groceries, and waited for her in a parking lot, where they were surprised by hired killers who ended their lives. A report from the federal prosecutor's office in Mexico states that at least 500 AK-47 shots were fired at the place that night, as well as a bazooka that hit a sign on the wall, causing panic amongst those who were shopping at the time. The young men were chatting in the parking lot when they were surprised by the arrival of 5 vans with at least 20 men with bulletproof vests and long guns. Panic broke out when a loud bang was heard and fire approached on a sign of the upper wall of the mall. With a bazooka shot, the gunmen had announced their arrival. There were 2 versions related to these events. The first one states that the Beltran Leyva cartel was the main one responsible for these losses. According to Frida Munoz Roman, Édgar's wife, her husband was killed by hitmen from the Beltran Leyva brothers cartel in a settling of scores, who at the time were at odds with the Sinaloenses. These organizations were allied until 2008, when people who depended on Ignacio Coronel, an ally of Chapo Guzman, put Arturo El Barbas Beltran Leyva out of business. But the second version is the one that seems to be true. The attack would have been perpetrated by a cell of hitmen under the command of Gonzalo Inzunza, the Macho Prieto, head of Mayo Zambada's gunmen. The truth would be that Chapo asked Mayo to execute a young man nicknamed El Guacho, but this cell made a mistake and executed Guzmán López and his companions. Through the radio, information, questions, and orders were exchanged. The young men were forgiven for the ops, and the order to shoot was given. After this fatal incident, El Macho Prieto continued with his activities in the Mexicali Valley for a few years, maintaining the irregular conduct that, at the time, had already been disapproved by superiors. As the years went by, Gonzalo Inzunza began to be on the radar of the Mexican authorities. And also, as we've mentioned before, his method of acting was not always to the liking of his superiors in the organization. It appears that it was members of his cartel who told Mexican authorities of his whereabouts. As far as they were concerned, Macho Prieto had begun to kill people in the cartel. Thus, on December 18th of 2013, at approximately 4:30 a.m., members of the Special Forces of the Secretary of the Navy of Puerto Peñasco, Sonora, burst into the place where Gonzalo Inzunza was, and they began a shootout. The result was 5 dead people. After the shooting, it was reported that one of the dead was precisely El Macho Prieto. But neither the Attorney General's office nor the National Security Commission confirmed the identity of any of the bodies. The day after the shooting, it was stated that Gustavo Inzunza's accomplices had taken the body of the leader of the criminal cell from the scene, but that's not certain. He assured that it was the corpse, and the DNA tests were being carried out with blood samples left at the scene to corroborate the identity. According to his version, only 4 bodies were taken by the authorities from the crime scene, since the 5th was stolen. Do you think Inzunza is dead? Or is this all a setup by distraction so that he can keep operating without being chased? Comment down below what you think, and don't forget to like the video, hit that notification bell, and subscribe to our channel. Till next time.